In this video we'll demonstrate how you can build a Phonegap application that uses a SQlite database to store a large number of records, each record having its own image associated with it, and how by having a SQlite database you can have all this data available to you while you're disconnected. So you can see over here we're looking at my phone, and we have a UX component running right now. So we're going to start out by clicking this button over here to make an AJAX callback to dynamically create a SQlite database on the server and then download that database to the phone. So I'm going to click the Get DB button right now, and you'll see that basically as soon as I click that, there's our AJAX callback. So, and then you can see there's the progress bar showing up over there. So what's just happened right now is we've made an AJAX callback to the server, and we've created a SQlite database on the server, which is about a 5 megabyte database. There are about 500 records, each with its own image in this database. And now we've downloaded that database to the phone, and now we can start executing SQL queries against that database. So I'm going to tap this Execute SQL, which is going to populate a list control with all of the data and the images. So you can see that here's all of our images. And if I scroll quickly to the very end of the list by dragging on the slider over here, you can see there I am at the end of the list, and every record has its associated image. So even if I was offline right now, these images would all be displaying, because the data is all coming from an on-device SQlite database that was dynamically created on the alpha server and then downloaded to the phone. So now that we've seen this in action, let's go back to the UX builder and see how this was all actually done. So let's start out in MySQL over here, and you can see that in MySQL I have a table called movies, and if we look at this table we see that each record in the table has a field called name, and then it has another field called image B64, which is the base 64 encoded data for that image. So if we look at it in form view, the fields that we care about here are the ID, the name, and then the base 64 data that represents the encoded base 64 binary data for the image. So that's our SQL database over there. Now let's go back to the UX component, and you can see here's our component. So the first thing that we've done over here is we've defined a button that uses action JavaScript, and in this action JavaScript we're going to go here and we're going to call an action that says basically create a SQlite database on the server and then download it to the device. And then we're going to define the name of the SQlite database that should be created on the client side. So we're going to call the database movies.db when it's brought down to the phone. And then here's the definition of that SQlite database. So we've said that this SQlite database has a single table called movies, and the definition of that table is going to be based on a SQL query that uses our connection string to our MySQL database, and then here's the field list that we'd like to pull down from that table. So we'd like to pull down the ID, the name, and the base 64 encoded data over there. So if we just go ahead over there and close it and then say preview data, then we can see what the data is that will be used to populate this table in the SQlite database. So you can see here's the ID field, then there's the name of the image, and there's the base 64 encoded data over there. So this defines how the database will be created on the server when the AJAX callback is made. And then you can see we've also specified that when the database is being downloaded from the server to the phone, we'd like to display progress, and we'd like to display progress in placeholder number 1. And then we've also defined an onComplete database create event, which we'll explain in the next video when we pick this up again. So we're continuing now with our discussion of how we can use a SQlite database to create a database with a large number of records, each record having a picture associated with it. So when we execute this action right now, we're going to be making an AJAX callback to the alpha server, and then the alpha server is going to be dynamically creating the SQlite database with a table called movies. But this is a large database, and it's going to take some time for the server to actually complete the task. So what we'd like to do, as soon as the user makes the callback, we'd like to put up a wait dialog. So you can see here we've got an inline JavaScript action over here, and if we look at the action, we can see that we're calling the show wait message action to put a wait message, and we'd like to position that wait message on top of the current panel card number 1. So this action over here is going to open up the wait message, and the wait message then will start being displayed as soon as the user taps the button. And then what we'd like to do is, once the server has completed creating that database, we'd like to dismiss the wait dialog. So you can see here, this is the onComplete database create. So this event fires after the server has finished creating the database, but before the phone has started downloading the database from the server. So what we're going to do over here is just simply hide the wait message over there using this command over there. We don't need this, we can delete that. So we're going to hide the wait message, and then the progress will start being displayed on the phone, and we'll see the progress over here in placeholder number 1. So basically this is where the progress will be displayed while it's being downloaded. Then after the database, the SQlite database, has been downloaded, we're going to then execute a SQL command to populate this list control over here. So if we go to this list control, we can see that the list control is defined currently as a static list, and the reason that we chose a static list here is all we care about are the field names. So the field names in our SQlite table are ID, name, and image B64, which stands for image base 64. We've gone then and defined the layout of the list. We've gone to this field over here and specified that it's going to be displayed as an image, and that the data in this field is not the file name of the image, but rather the base 64 encoded data, and this is the prefix to use. So basically we have in the actual data itself just the raw base 64 encoded binary data, so we need to use a prefix so that the HTML will render correctly. So now we've defined our list control over here, and we've specified that this list control is going to fill the container. And also, since this list is going to have 500 rows with images, we've turned on virtualization so that the list loads quickly. So you can see if we scroll down here to virtualization, we've got virtualization turned on. We're using a page size of 50, and then we've also turned on the scroller, and we've specified that the scroller will just display the name of the current record. So this allows us, the scroller allows us to drag on a scroll bar on the right hand side and scroll quickly through the entire list, through all 500 rows in the list, without having to basically constantly hit, drag scrolling just to move one page at a time. So that's our list definition, and then here's our execute SQL command over here. So we're going to again use action JavaScript, and we're going to call into the execute SQL statement action. The SQL that we're going to execute is select star from movies. That's the name of the table in the SQlite database that we downloaded from the server. And then in the on success, we're going to basically get a pointer to the list control and then populate the list control with results array, which is the data that was returned by the SQL select statement. So that basically was how we populated the list. So what we've shown in this video is how we can make an AJAX callback to the server, create a large SQlite database with images in it that are all encoded as base 64 data, download that to the device, and then populate a list control with the data by executing a SQL query. Thank you very much for watching.